everyone. Welcome to today's leadership talk, which is part of our special Women's Day initiative. So, first of all, a very happy Women's Day to all of you who have joined us for this session. Now, today, what we are going to be talking about is a very important aspect, which is moving up the ladder into leadership position. What we have seen is that we have women in the IT industry, and more specifically, let's focus on the infosec industry. We have seen that there are a lot of women in the workforce when it comes to the entry level and even the mid management level. However, there is a glaring gender gap as we move up the ladder into the leadership roles in the industry, and we are seeing fewer women making it to the leadership positions. Now, some of the challenges that women in this industry today face include lack of gender diversity. It could be a male-dominated culture, lack of recognition, or feeling left out, lack of support from leadership, or unequal pay, among others. I'm not saying that each one of you would be facing the same challenges. The challenges could differ from person to person. Now, it's time to move the needle and push this gender parity in leadership positions in the infosec domain. And our endeavor with this session is to have women leaders from the infosec industry inspire and mentor other women in the industry on key aspects that will prepare them to move up the ladder into the leadership roles that they aspire for. We will be touching upon some critical issues pertaining to leadership for women in the infosec industry. So with that, let's get going. And please join me in welcoming our guests. I have with me Mitali Sharma, Corporate Head, Risk, Compliance and Security at SDG Corp. Joyce Rodrigues, Cybersecurity Leader at a multinational energy company. And Saloni Vijay, Head, Risk and Security Assurance at Vodafone Idea. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me, ladies.
Thank you, Shipra.
Thanks, Shipra, for having us here.
Thanks for having us here, Shipra.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking our time for this session. Now, I want to start on a personal note, if that is okay with you, which is, what inspired you to, first of all, get into the cybersecurity domain, and when you actually started your career, did you ever imagine that you would become a leader, or you would have a senior leadership role in this profession when you started it? So Mitali, maybe we can start with you.
So Shipra, it's a very interesting question that you put up, and I think I had never thought of moving into security domain or cyber security to say. I was more of a science graduate. And the second best subject always was computers. So that's how the computers happened to me, because medical exams, you have to pass entrance and all. So that's how that's how IT happened to me, I would say. I started my career as a IT head of an organization, and then moved into my current organization, where also I was working as a technical project manager. Now, from there, there were certain initiatives within the organization that were happening. Like there was this CMMI initiative that was happening. And from there, our team performed very well in that initiative. And that's the reason why, since I was managing that team, I was asked by my management if I want to move into a more corporate role. And that's where, we were setting up this whole compliance and security program for one of our customers who wanted a specific compliance program to be set up. So all set of controls were there. So from there, I was moved into this team, and it was a very challenging role, because from a project manager, you were told to move into a role where, you would be defining certain policies. So I moved from that project management role, and I moved into a role of a corporate risk leader. So it was more like risk management. That time, I think that was the time when I started studying a lot about risk management, about various standards, various frameworks, COSO framework, ISO 31000, all of those. I started designing those risk frameworks for my organization. And, when you start designing those risk management controls, the mitigating controls, that's where, that element of cybersecurity came into picture. And I started reading more and more about cybersecurity. And gradually, from that risk leader role, I moved on to become the compliance, security, and the complete role. So from there, I moved on to the role of compliance, security, information risk manager. So all of that. So that's how the journey progressed. So no, I had never imagined that I would come to that leadership role. Definitely, I knew I would be a leader. I would go to that leadership role. But maybe in the beginning, it was more towards the project management, program management sort of a thing. And security, when it happened, I think that was quite interesting. And that's how from security, it moved into cyber security. So that was how cyber security happened.
That's interesting because you didn't start with the security domain. So you started with another domain and then you moved into security. And we will come and talk to you more about that. But before that, Joyce, what we see is that when women come out of their STEM education, the STEM graduates, most of them, they're looking at either becoming doctors, or even within engineers it's mostly computer science, and they're looking more on the IT side of it and less on the security cyber security side. So what was your interest in cyber security when you started looking at your rather started planning your career?
Well, much like Mitali, even I did not start my career in cybersecurity. So even I did many different types of roles within IT before I came into my current cybersecurity leadership role. And I think, Shipra, to your point, right, a lot of it is about the conditioning we've had in the years that we grew up in, because the conventional career paths for a boy was engineering, for a girl was becoming a doctor. And even if you studied in the STEM ecosystem, right, the career paths were very conventional for various reasons, actually, depending on how the respective industries evolved, what was viewed as a job, of nobility, like for doctors, and, what was viewed as a man's job, that was engineering. So a lot of it has changed over the past couple of decades. And I think somewhere, we have the onus of, bringing that awareness forward, actually, in terms of saying that you can make different choices, actually, as you pick your career after your STEM education. It needn't always be, even after studying science or even after studying computer science, you needn't always get in, if you're a woman, you needn't always get into application development, software development, because that also at some point was, the career choice for most women, actually. Even when I came out of college, that was a very natural choice.
That's true, absolutely.
So I feel somewhere, if we need to create that awareness that, no job is difficult, no skill is difficult. You have to view any skill, any job without the conditioning around you, without the environmental factors influencing you to choose a particular path. Look at what you're interested in, what picks up your knowledge, and work towards it, actually. So I feel that we are all balanced that way to make those choices in life. If we minus, the environmental factors, I do also emphasize that the environmental factors and the environment we are in, if it is supportive, it provides a great avenue for women to grow, not just enter into a specific field, but also grow. But it should start with the woman itself, actually. It should start with us making a conscious choice of, picking a route that we feel, we otherwise wouldn't have picked up, assuming it was difficult, assuming it is not conventional, assuming it's not a woman's job. So the change should definitely start with us, and that's how you can end up in roles like, a cybersecurity leadership role.
So I completely identify with the fact that you mentioned that not just for women, but I think in general, in the IT industry, I think it has always been associated with software development, application development, and the roles beyond that, especially for women, they haven't really looked much beyond those roles. I'm not saying that that is true for everyone, but majority are still in the software development domain. So Saloni, how was your career progression towards cybersecurity? How did it start? And like Mitali and Joyce, was it something that happened later on, or was it a conscious choice right from the beginning?
So I think story is almost similar, kind of Mitali and Joyce. I was part of not only IT, but from telecom also. So telecom technology is quite different than IT. I have played multiple roles in telecom in different, verticals, wherein I worked in value-added services. I worked in packet core. So packet core is a medium, if I generalize, it is like the gateway which carries the internet traffic. Then I worked in the IT domain. I worked as a IT head for a circle which is Gujarat, and then later on I've been part of the multiple circles. So I was heading IT for the entire Eastern Western region. So my nature is like I'm not settled with any specific role. So it's like after 3 years I always demanded something new, and the management has supported me, and I have given a justice to whatever role I have played throughout my career. So my performance was also good enough, and that's how I always get new roles in the same organization. I'm very curious by nature, and what I can say that I always push myself to take some kind of challenges, and I wanted to do something which scares me the most. So security is something which was scaring me in the beginning. In the beginning, in terms of around 3 years back, when people were telling me, okay, you have played multiple role, why don't you move into security? So if you are in charge of security, then there are a lot of things you have to be very conscious. One wrong step in your organization, you can put your organization in threat. So I was like, okay, why to choose a profession wherein there is a lot of, challenges? But then as my nature was like to take the roles which gives me some goosebumps or give me some scaring kind of thoughts. So then I thought, okay, why not security? I should put myself in that shoes and see how it feels. And that's apparently when this opportunity came in front of me, I chose this field, and around a year back, I've done my career transition from IT to cybersecurity. And that's about me. And I would say, yes, as a woman, you require a lot of support from your management, from your peers, at home, in the organization. And I was really fortunate to have those kind of, people in my life who have really supported me. So whatever field I wanted to choose, they've supported me, putting me there, examine my skill set for that particular field. And then when they satisfied, okay, I can do that, I have never let them down, and I've always performed whatever is been assigned to me. And that's how I have also chosen cybersecurity field.
So I think that's very interesting. This one common thread across all the career for all three of you was that you didn't start in the cybersecurity domain. I think that is one big learning for everyone, for men as well as women, that even if you haven't started your career in the cybersecurity domain, you can still move to that career path, even midway in your career or even in the later part of your career. So it need not be a hurdle that you didn't start in cybersecurity. That need not be a hurdle to move into this particular domain. So what is very interesting, what Saloni mentioned, that security is something that scares everyone, and therefore that's a very interesting take. And I'm going to think about that more now that when I talk to infosec leaders, that makes it more challenging for them. One important aspect that I want to come to now is, which is the idea of this discussion today, which is to mentor women, more and more women in the industry, in the cybersecurity, in the infosec industry, who are probably in the middle management position, how they can move up the ladder and how they can, get into the leadership roles. So for that, what are some of the biggest hurdles that they face when it comes to moving into leadership position? Why is there underrepresentation of women, especially in leadership roles? Mithali, what is your take on that?
Shipra, I think there are many factors that are there. To name a few, I think first of all, I would say, what is the organization where you are working? So, when you are starting your career, when you are making a transition from, one organization to another organization, it's very important to first understand whether the environment is such that it will promote women or not. So it's very important that while you join that organization, you should first understand the culture of the organization before taking up any role, because they may give you a fancy role, but then 1 year down the line you would feel that there is biasness and they don't support women. So that kind of, I think, that flexible environment, those policies, what are those over there? Secondly, I think Joyce and Saloni covered that it's more of a support. What kind of support system you have with you as a woman? Are you ready to take up those challenges? If not, what are those challenges? What is your limit? What is that limit that you can push? So what is that area till where you can go, till where you can stretch? So I think even that should be very clear from the beginning. Do you want to be like a 9 to 5 person, or do you want to stretch your limits and tell the management that, you know what, rate me on my goals rather than rating me on the time that I spend here or the time that I go out for social, I mean, for those drink breaks and all of those breaks. Do you gauge me with that, or do you gauge me with the performance? And I think very importantly, the belief in yourself to continuously keep growing and accepting those challenges. I think that's very important, because until and unless I myself have the determination that I can do it, until and unless I believe in myself and I have the confidence that I can go for it and I can take it up. Like Saloni mentioned that she security was threatening to her, but then she moved into it and she did it. Like I moved from a career in where I was doing coding, pretty much what Joyce was saying, that women do coding, a lot of them. So I moved from there into security. There was a lot of study that I had to do, just to be up in the market, just to understand all of the industry trends. And even till date, I think there is a lot of study and there is a lot of research that we have to do. So that ability to take up those challenges, believe in yourself, I think, and then the generic leadership skills, I think that is something that you are born with and you can also develop, like motivating others, taking on, I mean, time management. How do you manage? And I think I feel women are very good when it comes to time management, and that's one skill that definitely, I mean, the kind of compassion that we carry and the kind of time management that we carry, it's difficult for men to have, and also cross us on those three areas. So I think these are few factors where, yes, if you do that, then those leadership positions, definitely, I mean, men or women, it doesn't matter at all now. That's how I feel about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Joyce, according to you, what are some of those biggest hurdles that actually stop and discourage more and more women from getting into the leadership position? I'm not denying that there are few women in the industry. So up to the middle management, we will find a lot of women, maybe the disproportionate to the male population, but still there are a lot of women. But once it moves to the leadership role, there is parity. So there is a lack of parity when it comes to leadership positions. So what is it that is discouraging them to move into leadership roles?
If you talk about the cybersecurity field in general, right? I think we are at a phase where we're going through the same transition that any industry has gone through. So if you look at any industry, right, starting, if you go back in time and look at the manufacturing industry, the banking industry, the technology or digital industry, a lot of these started as, a man's job, male dominated, and then the need for gender diversity, and then the diversity grew. So I feel this is, every industry has gone through an evolution to recognize the importance of gender diversity and bring in women at every level in the, in their respective organizations. And I feel the cybersecurity industry is, in that early phases where today, if you look at different statistics, we make women comprise up to 20% of the cybersecurity workforce. And this has actually doubled over the past few years, actually. It was even lesser, 5 to 10 years ago. So it has made a natural progression. And I feel there is a huge opportunity now, first, because the cybersecurity workforce demand is expected to triple in the next few years. So there is an opportunity, and there is a recognition of diversity. Diversity is, is important because we've all recognized the benefits of it. Now, if you talk about hurdles, right, like all these industries, the hurdles are exactly the same, actually, that all these industries have gone through. So the first one, and I always say this first because it starts with us, actually. So women should stop assuming that, jobs are difficult. I cannot do this. I cannot, probably this is not a skill for me. Much like Saloni, at some point in time, even I thought cybersecurity was a very tough job, actually. But for me, I took it up because I felt it was tough, actually. And, if something scares you, you shouldn't shy away from it. And I think that is one of the first and biggest hurdles that every woman should overcome themselves, their own fears, their own inhibitions, that they cannot do something if they, and that a job at a senior level will be much more demanding in terms of time, in terms of their attention, in terms of their commitment to constantly learn and grow, as Mitali has mentioned. So the first big hurdle that every woman has to cross is themselves, their own fears. Then the next is about obviously the supporting environments. I say this because if it weren't for supporting environments, I'm sure some of us wouldn't have gotten here, or some of us probably had to create that environment to also get here also. Maybe it's a combination of both, actually. So how can each of us at home, at our workplace, in communities, create that kind of a supporting environment where we are uplifting, inspiring, encouraging women to take up senior roles, even if that means a little more extra commitment to learn, to upskill, to develop leadership qualities and skills. How do we encourage people to invest in that? So I feel it is up to all of us to create that kind of an environment where we're encouraging, because we know that there is, because for various reasons, a history of reasons, it is not a natural thing, actually. So you have to consciously create those environments. Then the third, I feel, is breaking biases and perceptions at every level, starting from grassroots level to highest level in the organization, that certain jobs cannot be done by women, actually. And I think even at the grassroots level, right, how can we start encouraging the thinking that science as a field, or engineering as a field, is not something that women is something that women can also do as competently as men, actually, at grassroots level. So there has to be that education awareness at every level, actually, and even in senior levels. How do you break those biases, actually? And I think the onus is on everybody, man, woman, everybody in the organization, on how you break those biases very consciously. Like, stop making, like, for example, the most simplest thing, the representation of a hacker, even till date on most websites, is a guy with a hoodie. So how can you break those kind of stereotypes, biases very consciously? And I think that plays a huge part in, encouraging women to, break their own biases or their own fears, creating supportive environments, and, helping them grow in organizations.
The example that you gave of, the image of a hacker, there are a lot of women hackers, but when we always think of a hacker, it's always a man. We never inherently think of a woman as a hacker, and I think that those some of those inherent biases that definitely need to change. So, Saloni, in your experience, have you seen certain inherent biases that actually stopping women from moving into leadership roles, especially in the cybersecurity industry?
Yeah, Shipra. So, Shipra, basically, I believe in 3 M's, and I always talk about 3 M's, which comes in every woman's life. Okay. The first one is the marriage. The second one is maternity. And the third one is motherhood. So, as you also mentioned, that there are a lot of women who join the organization, they come to the middle level. But when we talk about the leadership level, there are very less representation of women. So, the thing is, at any of these 3 M stages, if women are not giving up, okay, and they are moving up and up and up, and then, okay, the path is okay, fine. Because, in the middle one stage, your career is also moving, okay, and your personal life is also moving. So you have to have a proper balance between your professional and personal life. And there you require a proper support system. So as Joyce has also spoken about the support system, and many women leaders believe if you have a very strong support system, be it at office, be it at your home, that matters a lot. So when I was reading about some leadership, not leadership, Shirley's book I was reading, she mentioned that make your support system a real support system. So we all have a support system, but are we efficiently using that support system? I'm not sure. So how many of us are seeking help from our spouses, from our parents, from our in-laws to support us at a home, so that our focus at our professional life is proper, and that's how we can also grow in our career. So that is something wherein support system matters a lot. The second thing wherein I feel that women should be very, very visible in terms of, we don't know how many women have those kind of skills wherein they make their appearance very visible in the boardroom. So when there are discussions happening, we all know women have all kind of skill set. Okay, the knowledge, women are having immense knowledge, they have proper skill set, but how much confidence and courage they have to speak up in front of so many people, to put up their point, to make negotiation, to make sure that the women get heard in these kind of boardroom discussion. So these are some of the qualities where women has to stand up and, improve the skill set, so that they can also be heard in this kind of conversation, in this kind of boardroom discussion. That is where women play a very important role. Yes, we have all kind of biasness, in the organization. And the first one, which I feel, it's an intent. So when I talk about the intent, so I was talking about how, we can be more visible in the boardroom discussion. Apart from that, yes, I feel there are biasness, and, the most major thing which I feel is the intent. So how the intent of an organization and management is to see a woman at the leadership position, it matters a lot. So there are organizations which focuses on women diversity, and they want women to, step up at the ladder. So it all depends on the intent, how much, how you want a woman to be recruited in your organization, which kind of programs and policy you have to support women. So that is something wherein organization also plays a very important role. So generally, people have a image of a woman as a fragile image of a woman. Whenever there are challenging tasks, or there is something wherein, people think, okay, women can't do it. If we talk about any organization, so you can see more women in the customer service role or in HR role, but there are very less women who are in a sales role or maybe in a technology role. See, situation was earlier, it was a very different situation. Yes, we know that now situation is not that bad, and we have a lot of women representation in the organization, but yes, still a very less representation in leadership roles. So here, support system, family support system, your management support system, how you present yourself, how are you networking within your organization, that also matters a lot. So when you see men, okay, if they are achieving something or they are doing some good work, okay, they will tell it to everyone, okay, they brand themselves very, very nicely. But when we talk about women, we do, irrespective of how big job or how big achievement, we achieve, but when we talk about it, no, we don't. So that's what I was talking about, that the networking skill. So how are we branding ourselves? That also very important skill a woman should have. And the other thing which I would say is a lack of role models. So when we see other women, stepping up the ladder, doing some challenging task, okay, we hear the stories, we understand, okay, in which kind of situation they were, how they have dealt with such kind of situation. So if we have those kind of role models in our lives, it gives us also a courage to, move up to the ladder and takes those kind of challenges. So that is something wherein if you have a role model, these role models you require at each step of life. It's not like only entry level women require this kind of role model. In fact, you and me also at this point of time, it's not like that we are the senior most level, okay. We also have a lot of stages need to be crossed. So we should have the role models, so that accordingly, we can also shape up our career journey or our, thoughts. How do we reach up to that position? So that is something, wherein we also need to, think about and shape up ourselves.
Right. So one thing that I get from when you mentioned, Saloni, about maternity and motherhood, what we have seen is that women usually find it difficult to join back in the mainstream after taking a career break. So even if they have a support system in place in terms of the family, in terms of the organization, what also happens is that the tech industry and the infosec industry is moving so fast. It's very dynamic, and the technologies are changing constantly. The threat landscape is changing constantly. So even when they return back from their career, they have a lot of catching up to do. And so, how do Mithali? How do you suggest that women really ensure that they are up to date in terms of the latest developments, in terms of the latest technologies? How do they keep themselves updated in order to make sure that they don't lose out on the time that they have taken the break?
Sure. So I think Saloni touched upon a very important aspect that, the three M's, they are definitely an area where it's a very important, important stage. They are very important stages in the life of a woman. And, you also want to enjoy those areas, whether it is marriage, whether it is maternity or motherhood. I think these are all special. But having said that, I think look at what men do. They also get married, they also become fathers, they also get into all of these aspects where, I mean, if it is motherhood for us, it is fatherhood for them. Definitely, yes, the responsibility of a woman is even more, because you have to spend more time with the child, and there are a number of things that you have to do. You have to feed the child and all of that. But I think we should do a kind of a self introspection and think that, do the men stop their career at that stage? The answer is no. We get 3 months of maternity leave, and even now it has been extended to 6 months, and you can even take even higher if you want. So I think while we enjoy those duration, while we want to have that courage to enjoy that period of motherhood specifically, I would say, I think it is very important that you set aside some part of your day just for yourself, which should be more towards, knowledge enhancing, which can be, I mean, it's very easy. Your child is awake. I mean, that's what I did, I would say. My child, I mean, till my last day, I was submitting evidences. I was on the audits and everything. After 3 days, I was providing a kind of a little bit of support to my organization in certain areas where I knew I could definitely help. So it was more like, getting on a call, sometimes attending a meeting, and all was virtual. So I was doing that virtually at that time. And then reading something, like, if your child is not sleeping, or maybe you're getting bored, just listen to some podcast, maybe read some journal, read some articles. So that way, what happens is, when you come back after 6 months, you don't feel disconnected, you don't feel lost in the crowd, and you can still carry that same confidence which you had maybe 6 months or 1 year back, and you are still updated with what's happening, what's not happening. So one aspect that Saloni touched upon, that networking part, you still need to stay connected with the folks, just to understand what all is going on. And there, and earlier, if you talk about, let's say 15 years back, I think it was very difficult, because that time you were not getting a lot of these broadcasts, webinars, articles, all of those, so many of them were not there. Now there is so much of information available on the internet. So why not utilize those 6 months just to do a small course, I would say, which you thought you wanted to do, maybe in data science, artificial intelligence, RP, whatever it is, which requires you to do it distance learning. So I think that constant learning is something that you need to bring into yourself, into your culture, and that's what will help you come back with the same confidence. Because what happens is, you come back after a year or 6 months, you're sitting in the boardroom, you still have that position, but then you don't know what to talk, and that's why you're not able to put across your point, because you are somewhere disconnected from what was happening in the industry. So I think that's very important aspect.
So, Mithali, while it's true that it's important that the women, once, even when they're taking career break, for them to stay updated, so that when they join back into the mainstream, they don't feel disconnected because of the way the technologies are changing so fast. But when you are balancing your home as well as your your career, Joyce, do you think that that kind of can lead to a burnout? I think I'll ask Mithali also. That can also lead to a burnout. So how do you really address that? How do you avoid that kind of burnout and be able to manage both together?
It's a good question, actually. So a burnout can happen in any given circumstance, actually. So it could happen even even if you're continuously working and not necessarily managing kids. It could happen if you're managing kids, family, and then working. It could happen in various circumstances, actually. So the underlying causes need to be identified, I would say. So for a woman to balance, I think the first thing she should do is ask for help. Take help. I think we still do not do that as much often, actually. Learn to say simple things like learn to say no, learn to draw boundaries, learn to seek help from the extended environments we are in. uh, you know uh, Learn to set expectations also. If your expectation is that you can only commit to working for 9 to 6, and you're still able to deliver on those goals, and Mitali mentioned it earlier, set that expectation that you want to be your performance, you want your performance to be measured against those goals and not how much time you're spending. Actually, you want yourself to be evaluated against what you are capable of doing, what you are doing, and how much value you can bring to a company as such. So it's a combination of an organization providing the right environment for people to not burn out, but at the same time, it's also up to individuals to understand what can cause a burnout. Actually, trying to juggle everything and wanting to do everything yourselves, yes, it will eventually lead to a burnout in any given circumstance. So how do you draw that boundaries, and then how do you get the right support at home to balance your personal priorities? How do you get the balance at work to sort of thing, also make time for yourself with your friends, but how do you use them also as a support system as such? So I think it is not very easy to balance it, but I think it is not impossible also, but it requires a very conscious effort to first recognize what burns you out. How do you how do you then create that balance? And the balance is very personal. Actually, a balance is different for each individual. So what is balance for me is probably very different for what is balance for Saloni or for yourself or Mitali. So I know where I should be in a position to recognize what my balance is and how will I achieve it. And for that, everything is important. And the most common triggers is us not wanting to ask for help, seeking, to draw boundaries, to set expectations. I think these are some of the basics that, if every one of us try and do, we can avoid any kind of burnout.
What I've seen generally is that there's so much of glorification around women being multitaskers. It has been glorified so much that women kind of tend to feel guilty if they kind of prioritize one over the other, and if they're not multitasking on everything. So that is also sometimes that leads to a burnout. They find it guilty to take time out for themselves. They think that I need to do this as well as that, and they find it guilty to ask for help. And I think that is one of the reasons that leads to burnout. So Mitali, just before I move to Saloni, since you mentioned that you were working, you were also updating yourself, while you were on your maternity leave. So how did you avoid the burnout at that time?
So, I would go back to what Joyce said, and I actually tied that with the risk assessment methodology. And it's like, you actually look at the factors or look at those underlying things that will cause burnout for you. So maybe, continuously sitting with your child and nursing your child may cause a burnout. Continuously reading may cause a burnout. So if those are the ones, then how do I come back to my normal self? Is it like disconnecting maybe for 10 minutes, or just telling my in-laws to take care of the child, or just maybe just going out and doing some kind of shopping because I have not been out for some time, or maybe just going out and or maybe just ordering my favorite food and eating it, or just doing a binge watching on Netflix or Prime, or just listening to music, dancing, yoga, meditation. So I mean, personally, it would be a personal choice for anyone. Like, you need to identify what are those factors that will actually burn me out, and how do I ensure that I am not burned out. I mean, even after that, it doesn't mean that you will not burn out. You will, because you are absolutely right that this kind of image of a women, that women are multitasking, they can do different things, and that's the reason why they should perform everywhere. That's not true. There are bad days also, and there are good days also, and I should be, as a woman, I should have the courage to accept that yes, I had a bad day, I screwed up, or say that I'm not good at cooking, I can't do that, and I need to have a maid to do that for me, or some help, house help to do it. So I think one very important aspect, understand your strengths and weaknesses. Wherever you feel there are weaknesses, ask for help, go and say a no, that I cannot do this. This is not in my capacity. And it is okay to fail at certain areas, but then, how you take that failure as a stepping stone to success and how you learn from it and move ahead. I think that's what is important.
I just wanted to add one thing to what Mitali said, right? I think she said all the nice things about take time out for yourself and do all that without any guilt. Actually, one of the biggest
Absolutely.
challenges that every woman faces and biggest, I would say, blockers of women progressing is the guilt that we carry. A guilt that I'm going to the salon, and leaving my kid alone at home. Oh, I'm going and hanging out with my friends. Oh, I'm sitting and working on this. And it's a guilt that holds us back actually, and there is no reason, because men don't feel that guilt, right, when they're doing that. So why do you have to do that? Parenting is a two-way approach.
Yeah,
actually.
so just to add to what Joyce is saying, so Joyce, I came across that situation because I used to leave my child with my grandparents and then go out to my office location for 2-3 days, and everyone, how the society is. So people used to say that you're not a good mom, you're not doing right and all of that. But then, the same thing, like when men go out for their tours, why can't women go out for their tours, and why should we feel guilty about that? I think that's a very important aspect.
So, in fact, when Joyce, you pointed out very early in the conversation that the biggest hurdle is we ourselves, and that is where we need to prioritize ourselves. And while these things might look very simple, that taking out time for yourself and prioritizing certain aspects, while these might look very simple from a leadership point of view, I think they're very critical, because when you are looking at a leadership role, it's important that that you first cater to yourself, your priorities, and then only you can you will have the bandwidth, or rather the time, to take out for the upskilling required for moving into the leadership roles. And Saloni, I want to come to this on this point that you raised, very important point about networking and being visible. And you rightly pointed out that women usually lag behind in pushing themselves to be more visible and vocal and networking. So what are your suggestions that in terms of how can they be more vocal and use networking to their benefits, especially now that we have social media networks like LinkedIn, Twitter? How can they network more to build their build more better network for moving up the ladder into leadership roles?
So, Shipra, everyone knows, there are women's club, okay, there are a lot of groups which is available on LinkedIn, on Twitter. There are women in tech, women in India, women in technology, a lot of things. And not only technology, there are other women groups also. So one can be a part of those kind of groups. And when I'm talking about making yourself visible, it's not only visible in the office. When you're visible on the social media, see, we all know social media has impacted everyone's life. The businesses are running on social media. So social media is very, very powerful tool. So if you are not very vocal also, okay, you don't have a good communication or presentation skill, but you are engaged on any of these social media, okay, if you are writing something good, please get associated with those kind of people. Not necessary that you get associated with people who are, technical people. You can always go beyond technical, so it's like, okay, we are working with the technology team. Not necessary that I will, be a network, will do networking only with technical women. Maybe my X factor is I'm a good poet, okay, or I write something good. Then I should be do networking with those kind of groups, because in that also maybe I will expand my network and I get some kind of leads. We all know at the leadership position, we don't get the opportunities from Naukri or from the recruitment companies or wherever here. When you are at leadership position, the opportunities come while you are associated with someone, while you talk with someone. When a person knows you personally, and how will this person knows you personally? When you are connected with them either physically or on the social media. So when I say that women are very shy to make themselves more visible, like when we are talking, when we are doing something good, why are we not posting on LinkedIn? Okay, people, when I see a lot of men, okay, they will do a course at the Coursera and they will put it in the LinkedIn. Okay, I've done this course. Then we are doing the same. I'm not saying that we should copy what others are doing, but we always been shy away by, okay, what people will say. Saloni is doing a lot of show off. She's branding herself. We have a lot of baggages in our mind, and those kind of baggages stop us, making us visible. These are something wherein we should step out, we should go do networking so that more and more people know us. And when people know us, they know, okay, what kind of job role Saloni is doing, okay, or what kind of job role Mitali is doing, if there any good, opportunity at the leadership position. It's not only about the opportunity outside. The same kind of skills we should use inside the organization also. Generally, what happens is that women sit in their own cabins or in their own area. They don't go out. Wherein a men go out for the for a chai break or for a cigarette break, and then they do networking and those kind of platforms. Women generally don't go out for those kind of breaks. So then we have to find out which kind of networking we should do. So it should be an intentional networking also. Okay, it's not necessary that I have some work with Shipra, then only I'll go to Shipra's desk. Okay, I can go any which ways. Okay, what are you doing? Because you are from a different function, I'm from a different function. You don't know what Saloni is doing, I don't know what Shipra is doing. But when we will do a casual work, the work, apart from the work, then okay, this is some project on which I am working. Then people get to know somebody is looking for something in some other different function or in the same function. Okay, then always, Saloni was working on that project, or Shipra was working on that project. She is very good at this skill. You should pick her up. So that when your same organization also, you can move up. And of course, when you are good at networking, you get the opportunity from outside also. And that's how you move on the leadership position.
Also, I think the more you network, the more you broaden your horizon, as well as your understanding, your approach, and overall knowledge as well. So, Mitali, what is your take on how do you think women should make themselves more visible, especially in the boardrooms? Make themselves more visible, more noticeable. How do they get their points across in the boardroom and stand to their point?
So I think, a lot of times what we do is we know the subject and, somewhere we are not confident in talking about it. Like, we will not talk, like I would know data security well, but let's say if VP is talking or if somebody is talking, I would actually think, okay, let him complete first. But then, ladies first should be followed there also. I mean, we should think about it that way. We should think that, if I know this subject well, why should I not enter into the conversation just because it may turn out into a kind of a debate, or just because, I may have, it may backfire, or they may feel that this is completely irrelevant. So that fear of failure is there when it comes to, making your point felt in the boardroom. And yes, it has happened a number of times that I've tried, or I have seen women trying to, make their point, and then it comes across completely out of context. But then if you have confidence in yourself, if you know the subject well, you should not shy away from talking about it. You should be prepared. Like, if you're entering into a meeting, why not prepare yourself maybe, a day before with the talking points. If you feel it's difficult for you to make a point, then please note down those points and make it a point that you put those points on the table, whether it is relevant or irrelevant. No matter whatever it is your points. At least people will get to know what you think, how you feel, and you don't know what opportunity lies ahead for you. So I think that's where I feel that's where most of the women shy away when talking about what with that fear of failure.
Joyce, what are your suggestions, in terms of women in infosec or infosec women leaders in the boardroom? I think we already see that there are very few infosec leaders in the boardroom, and women infosec leaders are even fewer. So how do they really be taken seriously in the boardroom and ensure that they are being heard?
So I think it's important that women build the confidence. What Mithali said is important and right. That one, know your subject, and if you know your subject, be confident to speak up. I've had that growth where I used to be a person in a room who never spoke up actually, and I used to get thoughts. I used to get in, and I would just hold it back, not wanting to sound wrong or out of context or anything, and then somebody else would say the exact same point that was on my mind. So I've had so many of those instances which made me feel that when I reflected, introspected, I said, I could have said that point, but I was just holding back actually. And somebody else said it, and it was right, it was acknowledged, appreciated. So somewhere a little introspection helped me actually to become that person who speaks when the thought comes into my mind. So I think that is where that is one thing that every woman should think about. Don't hesitate because you think you might not be right, or you might not be taken in the right way. So don't hold back, because you never know until you say it. And and it's okay if you're saying it, and if you're wrong a time or two, it happens. We should, it's a learning also for us actually. The other thing is, women are usually appreciated, and for our soft skills, interpersonal skills. And I feel somewhere that also becomes a blocker for women actually. So I think women need to learn how to balance, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. So when we grew up, especially in our Indian culture, saying that women should not speak up in certain forums when you have elderly people, etc. So there is that conditioning actually that we need to grow out of actually. Then there is also a bit of us our own soft skills that we do not want to speak out of turn. We do not want to speak over someone, and in that fear of disrespecting somebody or something, we hold back. We wait for somebody to call our name out, and then we speak. So those are small things that I think we should start becoming very conscious about. You don't need to override somebody, over speak over someone. You can wait for your chance, raise your hand. Don't hesitate to raise first. It's okay if if even if you're not confident, but speak, because you wouldn't know whether you're right or wrong until you speak. So don't hold back with the assumption that you might not be right actually. So I think there are some of those personality traits that we should consciously develop. And those are the kind of things that probably I feel that women should invest in actually. If you really want to break that glass ceiling, get those senior roles, how do you then position yourself? Treat yourself as an equal in the room first. That is the most important thing. When you treat yourself as an equal, then all these inhibitions go away actually. Then that okay, if that person is speaking, then you can also speak actually. So it's just as simple as that.
In fact, when you and Mithali mentioned about lack of confidence or the fear of speaking out, I can totally identify with it, because I remember early on in my career as a journalist, when I used to go out for press conferences, and we used to have a Q&A session at the end of it. I had a question in mind, but I was, fearful of speaking, or, just in front of so many people, getting up and asking that question, because I felt that probably that question might sound stupid, and perhaps the next person asks the very same question. So there's also this imposter syndrome that a lot of that women especially suffer from, that we feel that maybe, we are not as smart as we think, or maybe I'm not, thinking on the right lines. So I think that is also something that needs to be corrected. It has been a wonderful conversation. So I want to wrap up on a very important note, which is the idea of this conversation is to guide other women who are aspiring to be leaders. So I want to ask each one of you, so starting with you, Mithali, what are some of the pertinent questions or issues on top of mind of the next generation of women in the infosec industry, and what are your suggestions in terms of how do they develop their skills, what kind of skills they should develop in order to make it to the leadership roles?
So I think first very important aspect, since we are talking about cybersecurity, then I think the first question that comes into a mind of a woman who is aspiring to take up career in security is that, like Saloni mentioned, they fear security. They don't know whether this is my cup of tea or not, whether I should actually go in for this or not. I mean, they know about engineering, they know about doctor, they know about civil services, but cyber security is not that much talked about when it comes to your college days or at that time. So that fear, whether this cyber security, should I go ahead with this or not? So I think the answer to that would be it is same as any other role, any other thing that you do. It is similar to coding. It's just that, like, you want to you do your masters, and you master in a particular subject. Similarly, this is also that field where you can come back and you can master yourself, and it's a gradual journey. So you should not think that, and these days the young people, they are a little impatient. They want to just step up the ladder very fast. But I think you should always think, you cannot go against the nature. You can think that, you were not born as a 18-year-old child. You were born as a toddler, and you, as a kid, from an infant, you turned into a toddler, you turned into a kid, then into a girl, and now you are like, you're taking up your career. So similarly, there are stages. You didn't do your class 12th just when you started your schooling. So similarly, cybersecurity would also be a journey. That career has to be a journey. You have to evolve and transform every day. I think one very important aspect, I think what I believe in, is that you need to believe in yourself, that you can do it. You need to set up those goals for you, what exactly you want to do. Go slow, break that goal into different long-term and short-term career goals, saying that this is what I want to do, this is how I want to do. And then, very importantly, stay hungry, stay foolish, and stay humble, which is just keep on learning, keep on having that that fire in your belly to know more, hunger to know and read more. And having said that, when you are successful, because if you follow these and if you have your goals set, someday you will be successful, because you believe in yourself. When you are successful, don't let that success go to your head. Still stay humble and keep giving back to the community, because that is the only way how you will keep growing, and in doing that, you will also make others grow with you. So I think that's what will be my take for the people.
Thank you so much, Mithali. Saloni, what do you think are some of those unique qualities that actually women bring to the table, and therefore they should actually leverage those qualities to become better leaders?
First quality which I feel is empathy. Okay, women are very empathetic by nature. Then, when they put themselves in the shoes of other, okay, they feel the kind of challenges the other person is facing, and that's how a woman create their own strategy. So many a times, women are very good leaders because of this particular quality which women have. The second thing is, which I feel, is they are very creative. They think in a different way, the way men think. So when you are in a cyber security field, okay, let's say any incident has happened, or any breach has happened, or you want to protect your infrastructure, okay, in how many angles you can think, how many antennas you can open, and then how your imagination is. That imagination skill is very powerful in women. When you think from many perspectives, okay, then you protect also. So if your thinking ability is not that high, then you might not be thinking a particular area from where the attack can happen. So that is a quality which will be helpful for a woman to take a leadership position in the cybersecurity field. And for that, as Mitali also mentioned, and Joyce has also mentioned in conversation, that women have a fear of failure, okay, or as I said for myself also, that I was very scared in the beginning whether I will be doing that security role or not, how challenging it is. Every other day there are attacks are happening, so you have to be, and you have to learn a lot. There is not even a single day where you are not learning something in this particular field. So whether you have that kind of time, you have those kind of, facilities wherein you can upskills yourself. So all these kind of things, which is holding you back. So my suggestion for the younger generation is, don't think anything. Okay, when an opportunity is coming on your way, you should believe on yourself by saying that, okay, let me put my shoes into it. Let me feel how it is. And I'm sure the way is there. Okay, there's nothing which is impossible for a woman. So that kind of belief should have. the second thing is, many a times, when we choose our roles, when we choose our job, we think about the comfort zone. What I feel that women should come out from the comfort zone and ask for the challenge roles, because the more the role is challenging, the more you will grow in that role. So when we talk about women in technology, you see there is a 20% representation versus in other areas, let's say customer service, or maybe in HR, or maybe in marketing. When you it is our wish that we chose this role to be a part of the technology, to be part of the cyber security. So when we take those kind of challenges, the kind of fruits we are getting is completely different. At the end of the day, you get a sense of satisfaction when people say, okay, there are very less women in technology and you are one of them. So those kind of things you should always think. And as Mitali also said, that cybersecurity is not a rocket science that you can't learn, or challenging that you can't, put your hands into it. It's like the other subject which you are doing in your engineering, the kind of application development, the kind of all other technologies you're learning, AI, ML, whatever it is. Cybersecurity is also another technology, but yes, if you are enthusiastic about it, if you are passionate to learn something new, and you are a quick learner, then it's an additional advantage for you. So the thumb rule is one should believe on themselves and always should compete with themselves, not with others.
Right, absolutely. Joyce, what would be your suggestions to the next generation of women in cybersecurity? How they can become better leaders? Are there any top 2 or 3 skills that they should be developing, in your opinion?
Firstly, I should say that this next generation is already very smart. I love working with this generation because I feel it's a very informed generation. They're very self-aware of their strengths, what they want in life from life. So I sometimes also learn from this generation actually. But then with my experience and for this field in cybersecurity, I think one. It is important for people in terms of soft skills for one to have curiosity actually, because this is one domain where neither the tech right from the technology to the tactics, methods used by hackers in terms of how they can use things to compromise systems, how regulations evolve over a period of time, how risk changes from time to time. Everything keeps changing actually, so nothing is the same from what it was a year ago, 5 years ago, etc. So this is an ever evolving domain, and I think unless you have a very natural curiosity to try and understand what's happening around, how that impacts the security from all aspects, actually, personal security of an enterprise, security in using social social technology as such. You have to understand all aspects of it. That comes with a natural curiosity. Actually, you cannot force it in people. You cannot force people to have curiosity. It should be very natural and built, and it needs to start very early on in life. Start becoming curious about things from a very early stages in your life, actually, and then see how you build that natural curiosity. And it's also something that parents should inculcate in children. Do not stop them when they are learning. Do not stop them when they're asking questions, because that's how they build curiosity. I still remember sometimes, being shut off and asking questions in childhood. So don't do that, actually. So build curiosity in youngsters, and that helps them go a long way, actually. The other is, I would say that's the most important thing. Actually, I wouldn't repeat some of the things that Natali and Saloni have seen. For me, curiosity is the most important thing to get into the field, to grow, to keep yourself sustained, actually. And then, yes, a lot of the leadership skills comes with it, actually. Empathy, Saloni has mentioned, is a very important leadership quality. You should also think of empathy in cybersecurity from one perspective, actually. If you look at the hackers, right, they come from different backgrounds, they're different diversity, different, situations from which, they may have become, bad actors actually. So they are not alike. They are thinking differently. So how if you have an empathy, you can also think from a hacker's perspective and use that in building good defenses for your companies actually, and grow in this field. So even if you want to become a good ethical hacker, you also need to have empathy to think like a hacker actually. Empathy helps you in there. So do not devalue the soft skills around curiosity, empathy, because these are very important skills for you to build in the cybersecurity domain apart from technical skills. And yes, the urge to continuously learn what's happening, stay on top of things, ask questions actually. So those are things that I think everyone should have. And I strongly encourage all the youngsters to keep, if you have those in you, just hone them, and then use them as much as possible actually.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think very, very interesting points raised by all three of you. And the way you connected these qualities with cybersecurity, how they're very critical to cybersecurity, like empathy, like curiosity, and a lot of other things that you mentioned. I think it's very interesting to hear all those. And I'm really happy that today we had this non-technology related conversation, because this was really refreshing, and it kind of gives a different perspective to cybersecurity, not just for women, but also I think for men. The kind of perspectives that you brought about today in terms of leadership in the cybersecurity domain, these are going to be helpful for everyone. So thank you so much for taking our time. And I just want to end on the note that women should not feel guilty about prioritizing themselves, and it is only by putting themselves at the center that they will be able to move up the leadership role in their organization. So thank you so much everyone for your time, and have a great day ahead.